Need to own up to the inaccurate word reference I made in the previous episode. And I had said the Hebrew word being translated into spirit can also be translated into breath, which is true. And I went on to say that it's the same Hebrew word translated into breath in Genesis when it says God breathed the breath of life and man became a living soul. And that was not true. When I was saying it, something didn't feel right, and I went back after the episode to take a look, and in fact, it is not the same word. So this episode is going to be clarifying these Hebrew words that are translated into breath or spirit. So in Genesis 1:2, when it says the Spirit of the Lord was hovering over the waters, the earth was formless and void, that Hebrew word is ruach, and it occurs in the Hebrew text 378 times. And that's a lot, relatively speaking. I mean, depending on what you want to consider to be a lot. So 378 times ruach appears in the Hebrew portion of our Bible, what we call the Old Testament. 232 of those times it is translated into the word spirit. 92 of those times it's translated into wind. 27 of those times it's translated into breath. And then there's remaining times or various other words that it's translated into. But by and large, it is translated into spirit. Only 27 of those times is it translated into breath. And it's used for wind a lot more than breath. Okay, then we move on to Genesis 2:7, which is where it's talking about God breathed life into the form he'd created, which was Adam. And there's two words in there. It says breathed the breath of life, right? So the first word is nafach, which means mostly to blow or to breathe. That word nafach only appears in the Hebrew text only 12 times. And most of those times it's blow or breathe. So God breathed into man, and he breathed the breath. And the breath is neshama. And that occurs more than the previous word. That occurs 24 times. 17 of those times is breath. 3 is blast. Only twice it's translated into spirit. And one of those times is in Proverbs. So here's an interesting point, because in Proverbs, when neshama is translated into spirit versus the other 17 times where it's translated into breath, it's in Proverbs 20:27, and it's referring to the spirit of man. And the verse is, the spirit of man is the candle of the Lord, searching all the inward parts of the belly. Interesting point here is, it's not the Spirit of God or the Spirit of the Lord or the Holy Spirit. This is the spirit of man. So the other time, so the word ruach, like I told you, first of all, that appears 378 times. Lots of times that is, when it is translated in spirit, it's referring to the Spirit of God or the Spirit of the Lord. The only 2 times that neshama is translated into spirit, one of which is referring to the spirit of man, and the other one I looked up had something to do with having a mean spirit or something like that. I can't remember where it was. But so the serendipitous conclusion or revelation here with me messing that up is God didn't breathe his spirit into man when he was formed. But if you are baptized, right, with the Holy Spirit, you will be pickled. in that. And that is how you will have a permanent indwelling of God's Spirit with you, because you weren't created with it. Or at least, Adam wasn't breathed that Spirit into him back in the creation. Okay, so we can move on from here, continuing to break down Mark. Word of God.